good all fucking day here.
All right, let's open up with Bert talking about today's sponsor.
All right. Welcome to episode 4.
Yeah.
Sure.
Episode 4 of Rap Drinks, where we drink and talk. Today's episode is sponsored by Origin Beer Project out of Cranston, Rhode Island. They have graciously given us some beer, including this giant fucking Magnum. Oh my god.
How long are we going to watch this?
I don't want to watch till it goes to the top.
Till the end.
Is it going to fit the whole thing?
You gotta watch
that's a lot of
the
head.
head there, man.
It's a lot of head. I'm pouring it into a vase.
Angle it, bro.
It's a lot of head.
All right. You're just gonna need a refill. That's all.
Yep, I'll fill it back up in a minute.
Okay. That's pretty solid, though.
That's a good pour.
Okay. Joining us today is Bryan Kelley, BK.
That's right. The Burger King. British Knights.
Cheers, Burger King.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Here's to it. Yeah, hell yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Air cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to Bert's extremely large beer. Compensating for something, apparently.
Yeah, not being drunk enough.
So you know what happens on this show, or maybe you don't, because maybe you've never watched this or you don't care. But we are going to go talk to BK right now about some war stories, some set things that happened behind the scenes, how he got into this industry, and yeah, we'll see where this goes. So BK, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was going to be an interrogation. You said you want to come over for some
Dim the
beers.
lights.
So you want to come over for a couple beers? Now we're in this
I feel
weird
like
room.
am I hooked up to a lie detector test? Are the NSA looped into this, or
How did you get into this this industry? Was this something you were always in, or did you kind of fall into it by accident?
Yeah, I failed out of law school and medical school, and I could pick up heavy things, and I found this as a career.
Wait, literally?
No, I grew up, Mike loves it when I say it, but I grew up on a dirt road in the middle of Iowa, right? And I was lucky enough to have a friend that got into the film business. I went to school for journalism and, got my hands on the gear. And there was like this small little enclave at Iowa State University that were like more into film than TV news. And we did some projects together. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do this for a living. But, the only thing that you can do back home is, that kind of realm of working for a, TV station and stuff. And I was like, I want to work more in film and television. I knew I was going to have to go to LA or New York. I had a friend that I grew up with, same small town. He's a gaffer now, but that's how I knew about the film business in New York. And it all just worked out. I followed him out here, and a long winding road to this point, but now I do it for a living. And it's been a long, wild ride. I've been doing it for 13 years now, and I guess I have a career until I don't want it or get kicked out, and so far, so good.
What do you actually do within the film world?
Mostly eat crafty, so put productions over their craft service budget.
Really sticking it to
It's
him.
really sticking it to them. Be like, yeah, why don't you bring me 2 helpings of that macaroni and cheese? No, but I'm paid as a grip, so I'm sure anybody watching this knows what a grip is. But camera support, building sets, lighting, rigging. This next job that I'm on, I'm going to be a rigging grip. So there's kind of 3 disciplines within the jurisdiction which I'm in, IATSE, right? So it's you're either construction, rigging, or shooting. And within shooting, you can be a dolly grip, right? So, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades as a grip. And right now, mainly I'm construction rigging. This next one, I'm going to be a rigger. So it's a good gig.
Careful with that word.
Yeah. It's, yep. Rhymes with a lot of them, like trigger.
Bigger.
We'll leave it there, you know.
We're going to leave that there.
We'll just
on to the
leave
next
that there,
thing.
walk away. I guess I'll leave the business right now.
So, before you got into IATSE and started doing these big, awesome jobs where you had huge, crafty budgets, what were some of the roles that you started in? And is there one that kind of is burned into your mind as the one that was like, why am I doing this?
Well, yeah, every step of the way, even as a rigger now, or a grip now, I'm like, every once in a while, I'm like, why do I do this? You know, it's like a self-selecting group. I don't know. It's like some kind of sadomasochistic relationship that you have, like the hours and dedication that it takes to do this for a living and the sacrifice of your personal life that you have to put forth. And, you know, you have to be in a certain area of the country or world to do it for a living. And it's not always satisfying, but, you know, I was very determined that I was going to do this for a living. And the first, I remember the first job that I did, I was just so happy to be getting paid to work on a movie. I was in locations, and I was locations unit PA, but it was like my first movie. So all these salty people, you know, I've got 13 years in, but some of those people on this movie have like 20, 30 years in to their careers, and they're working on a low budget movie and they're not having the time of their lives. But for me, I was like, this is the best thing ever. And I'll remember I was like cleaning out the catering hall, and the caterer was just like miserable, and he's he's like, why are you so happy? I was like, hey man, I went to school for this, and I'm finally doing it for a living. I'm getting paid to work on a movie. And he's like, you went to college to take out the trash? I was like, well, if you put it like that, Mr. Jerk Face. I was like, yeah, I'm paying student loans to take out the trash, but I was happy as a pig and shit doing it. So, you know, it's like, you know, everybody needs an entryway in, and then you find what you're good at, or, you know, people will want to have you around to do it. And that movie, I always refer to those movies like the indie world, and like the movies that you know, you go somewhere else and everybody's kind of working on the same thing. It's almost like summer camp. You're going to a place, like usually like a small town somewhere, and it's almost like the circus has come to town. So you're kind of like local celebrities. And the fact that you're working on a movie in a place that doesn't normally have the movie industry around, and you all have like these similar things in common. Everybody's come to this business, and those are where your strongest like bonds and relationships come from, because it's like that was the time when you would do it for free, you know? And it's like literally you start out working in this business, you do it for free before you get paid to do it. And a lot of those guys and girls that I worked with at the beginning, 2009, so like that was my first movie, and 13 years later, a lot of those people are still some of the strongest friends that I have in my life. And, you know, they always say that you progress through the industry together. And it really is that case, because, you know, there's probably a good 20 people from that job that I still run into on sets that are, you know, much bigger budget. And obviously our lives and careers have progressed in different directions and trajectories, but it doesn't matter. All this time has gone by. When you run into those people, it's like you still have that bond it's like going to high school with somebody. It's like, it doesn't matter where you go, you always have that in common.
Remember that shit show we did?
Yeah, it's totally like, you remember November and the North Fork of Long Island, as far east as you can go, getting pelted by rain, holding that 8x. Yeah, you remember that shit. So But it's been a good run, man, and I never take it for granted.
When you first started in the industry, was there like a path that you were looking to take? Like, did you want to work in grip department, or did you want to work in locations? Like, was there a department you were kind of interested in, or you were just like, I'll do whatever? Like,
Well, yeah, when I first came out here, I thought I was gonna, take over the industry and just be like landed and have Lorne Michaels call me and be like, "Oh, I heard you moved to New York. You want to space in you want to roll on Saturday Night Live?" Or, I thought maybe I'd be a big film star of I don't know, grand rapport, but I didn't. I was like just kind of desperate to get into the film business in any capacity. So the funny thing is so I had one friend that I knew one person in New York, and I was like, okay. So I moved out here, and I was like, through him, I'm like, I will meet somebody that will give me an opportunity. And I happened to go to a Mets game for a buddy's birthday. It was like a mutual friend, and there were like 5 or 6 people that worked in the film business, and this person that I had never met, he had a job that was starting, and I made him laugh at the game, and he was like, I have a movie starting, and my friend Jeff had told him that I wanted to work in the film business, and he goes, if you want, you can come see what it's all about. And it was like the best decision of my life, and for that, I'm really grateful. And along the way, I found out that I didn't know what a grip was. I didn't know what an electric was. I've done pretty much everything. I knew I didn't want to be a director of photography or a camera operator. I knew I wanted to be more of a support role, whatever that would be. I didn't know exactly behind the scenes what I was going to be doing. And you just start getting experience, and really when it came down to it, I was like, well, I've been drinking buddies with a bunch of grips, and I see some very similar characteristics personality-wise, and I can pick up heavy stuff for a living. I have no problem doing that. I don't know if you know this or not, I grew up on a dirt road. Mike's heard this a few times.
It's possible there was some gravel on that road.
But, I grew up always dumb labor in agricultural part of the country. So I was like, I'm not afraid of working hard. So, it's like definitely I do the industrial side of show business, but it's also, there's a lot less pretentious characteristics of a grip. So I was like, I'm like, it's weird talking about myself like this, but I'm like, I'm not intimidated by people that are like above the line or talent or whatever. I feel like, we're all working on something. We all have a job to do on set, and, I am house trained, I'm not an outside dog. I know how to be around people. And, so it's funny to me though, but it's like a lot of that bigger actors and stuff that I've worked with, they love hanging out with the grips because it's no bullshit, right? So it's like, grips have this reputation of being like a surly group of people, but it's also because, even for a seasoned director, maybe, they make 10 movies in their career. Grips, if they're working year round, you can work on 4 movies in a year, so it's like a lot of the grips that have experience and then become like key grips or dolly grips, a lot of times the dolly grip know more than what the director of photography, as far as an experience level, like they've done the moves, they've done the things. And I think it's where that's like, sometimes it's just people not knowing how to communicate with somebody with the experience, or relying on somebody that has that technical knowledge of how to achieve what they're trying to achieve. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But, I'm nowhere near experienced enough to think that I have an opinion that matters. But, I've been doing it now for a good 10 years as a grip. So I do have an idea of how to accomplish some things, and the best situations always come about when you have like somebody that respects your opinion, right? And you have that, like, how are we going to do this? They may or may not know how to achieve what they want to achieve, and then the grips come up with a solution to the problem. And like a lot of, one of the crews that I work for, their slogan is, the grips will do it. Because really what it comes down to, if you don't know how you're going to do something, the grips will figure it out. And that's really why I found myself gravitating towards that, because it's honestly like some of the problem solving skills that I've gained through being a grip. I've saved my ass in the real world so many times.
How so?
Just, I don't know, even as simple as like knowing how forces are going to interact, like to pull a car out of a ditch, right? So that happens on set all the time, where like these things happen and you have to figure out a way to get yourself out of a situation, right? So, or even like, just from like a construction standpoint, right? So if learning how your mechanical advantages work, right? Like learning where your fulcrum needs to be to move something with, using a mechanical advantage with like a lever and a fulcrum, and like getting something to move that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do singularly if you hadn't had that experience, right? So a lot of times a film set is like, all right, well, this happened, that Murphy's Law sort of thing, where anything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. And then whatever situation you're in, you're either going to lose your entire day, or you're going to figure out how to use that situation or solve the situation. So, speaking of vagaries, but I've definitely, I know that was like the first example that I've had come to my head, because I'm like, all right, no, you have to go here and you have to attach this here and you have to turn your wheels here. And it was like one shot, and somebody looked at me. I was like, I don't know. We do this on set, right? You figure out these things. You're like, you kind of look like a wizard in the real world. You just like,
You like helped someone pull their car out of a ditch based on.
yeah, like knowing exactly where to put your point on the axle under, So, and I wouldn't, or like, the pandemic hit, and I left the city and went back to my parents' house, and they live in a 115-year-old farmhouse, the house that I grew up in. There was like all these things that needed to be done, where I'm like, hey, I didn't know how to do this when I was growing up as a kid. And then I came back and I was like, I had a great pandemic, which is weird to say, but it was like, I was like their maintenance man. I was waking up every morning with a purpose, and like doing all these tasks, and then sitting down to like a home cooked meal from mom. And I was like, yeah, that's what gripping does. I felt like I didn't feel like Costanza, like a loser at home. I was like, I'm going to go back to work when there is work. But in the meantime, it was like, the skills that I gained on a film set of all places, like I could put to use in the real world in a real way. So
That's interesting that you would feel like. Has there ever been a reverse correlation where like real life experiences helped you on set with stuff?
well, I mean, yeah, I guess just relating to people on set, you just trying to think of a specific example.
Well, I think what you said is, you were like, it's great when, like, say a DP is coming to the key grip to ask for advice. Like, what is it when it's not like that, and when you're just getting these orders? How do you deal with that, like, sort of ego to get through that and still deliver?
I get a lot of tattoos and listen to hardcore punk music and intimidate the guy into not asking you to do things anymore. I don't know. That's one thing that grips do. But if
You just described like 80% of the grips I know.
What the fuck?
Did I trigger anybody? I don't know.
I agree with what you're saying though, because I remember the first time I ever used geometry in like the real world was on a construction job.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those things. They were like, "Oh, we need to square this spot off. Let's do the 3, 4, 5 rule." And I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" They're like, "10th grade geometry, dude." Like
Yeah.
Pythagorean's theorem.
The
You're like, "Oh, shit."
Pythagoras theorem,
Yeah.
right?
It's like I never thought that I would ever use that in the real world.
Yeah.
You
And
do
then,
in film.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, because you're like, when you can do that, it's almost like wizardry, right? So like, you can over giant distances just with that. It's like the 3, 4, 5 in increments of that multiplications of that. You can find square for giant surfaces, and when you're building a stage or a set that's like 100 feet long, if you're off by an eighth of an inch over 100 feet, that's you're fucked, right? So it's like, it's funny because there's a joke about grips that I heard. What's long and hard on a grip? Third grade. Right? So it's like, knuckle draggers. They're like, you have a reputation of being like the dumbest guys on set. But actually, from a technical standpoint, like if you're a good grip and you're a knowledgeable person, it's like wizardry, right? It's like you have to. People rely on the grips. It's like another analogy I always have is like grips are like offensive linemen in the NFL. Like the only time they are ever noticed is if they fuck up, right? So it's like just your margin for error is very small. Like if you're a dolly grip, you cannot push the fucking dolly off the track, because it's like a major violation, and everybody like looks like, oh my God, you push. It's like you can't fuck up, right? So it's like good grips are vital to any production, but I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
Yeah, I don't know
What
Grip-
do you
grips are
call
good.
What do you call a grip in a suit? The defendant.
yeah, there you go.
I feel like there's probably a million.
No, there's so many good. I remember
That's good.
because when I was in New York, I gripped, and so the electrics would always make fun of us. Now I work in Boston as an electric, but the one that stood out to me the most was, what do you get when you cross a grip and a gorilla? A retarded gorilla. I was like, at the time I was pissed. Now it's hilarious.
I always like there's a ton of these on the set humor or whatever, but the one that I always liked is what do grips and electric, who are like cats and dogs, at their worst case, but like what do grips and electrics have in common? Neither one of them want to be electrics. I always like that one.
Nice.
So I guess I want to get more into these like stories that you have, and I know you worked on a movie. You worked on
You're leading the horse to the water. You
Yeah.
want me to take a
Jaws.
drink, huh?
Tell us all about Jaws.
You worked on this movie. We'll call it Jaws,
Hooper drives the boat.
and it was in a different country. Might have been Africa. And that's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna
Did
say.
Mad
And-
Max?
All right, yeah. So I got some stories. All right, so it's been
Yeah, we did the foreplay. Let's get
Yeah,
into
let's get right to it. Right, we bought the dinner. Now let's get to the deed. All right, so yeah, there we go.
Okay.
All right, so I don't know. Just saying yes to adventure is like the key to this business, right? It's like I could have told people that I'm like, growing up, I'm like, I'm going to live on the moon because it's made out of cheese and I'm never going to have to go shopping because I can just eat the cheese. That was like as realistic of a possibility for where I grew up, that I was like, I'm going to work in the film business. And like looking back on the last 15 years of my life, if I could have like told myself 15 years ago the stories that I would have now, I would not believe, even if I'm like time traveler, here's a sports almanac from the future, like Back to the Future, like this is how it's gonna happen. I'm like, no fucking way. I would have thrown that shit out. Like I can't even believe it. But to your point, yeah, I did a movie in Africa, and it was like still in my adventure days. You know, it's like I was a swingman. And so I was doing like grip and electric, and I just, had happened to have the connections that I knew both crews. So it was like a perfect situation. And I hadn't got my union card yet, so I was still just like taking it as it came. And that was like the most pivotal like moment of my career. Like there's like so many stories, I don't even know where to start, but
maybe start with like start with the one where like there was you guys had a plan, you get in a situation, and then you had to abandon that plan completely.
Yeah. Well, I mean that started day one because they had like 2 weeks of like, we're not gonna take this gear, we'll just get it over there, and they spent like 2 weeks looking for ladders. They couldn't get ladders.
Oh my God.
We were in West Africa, and it was like, I will tell you, like it was like I don't even know how to say it, but like we had like modified all these trucks over there, like these cube trucks and stuff that we modified them for like what to do film the way that we do here.
Like 1-ton trucks, 2-ton trucks.
Yeah, but the problem was that a lot of the places that we were shooting, like there's like these potholes that are like chest high that you couldn't bring these trucks down to these roads where we were going to shoot in these villages and stuff. So there was just all these logistical issues aren't even the beginning. It's like not the word for it, but it's like logistical infrastructure, just nightmares. The things that you take for granted here in the Western world just like don't apply there. And, it was a war movie, so we had like the help of the Ghanaian army, and we had like UN support, and we had like all these armorers and stuff that had been on the Mad Max movies and stuff, and they had come up for this, and so it was like crazy once in a lifetime kind of experiences. And I had given myself a nickname unbeknownst to me, right? So like our driver was like, oh, Mr. like Bert, they would have big beard, like this dude that I was working with. He's like, oh, we call you Mr. Abujase, right? And that was like, means beard. And so I was like, well, how do you say fat guy? And he was like, oh, no, I can't say this. And I was like, nah, just tell me. And so little did I know for the next 3 months that this is going to follow me around. Like, this was going to be my name. But so there's like, the word is like obolo, right? We were in Ghana. So like, it's like, but what it means is fat, lazy man, right? So it's like, spreads like wildfire, right? Meanwhile, I'm not being lazy. I'm getting my ass kicked every day. Like, sunrise, sunset, sweating on the equator, like suffering for my art, I got into this business to make movies, not money, And every day there's like people going, fat lazy man, fat lazy man, like chanting it like I'm a pro wrestler or something. But like literally I'd be like carrying these like jib arms. We're building cranes on the side of mountains, like carrying jib weights up the side of mountains. So there's like dudes with AK-47s above their head going, Oba Lobo, Oba Lobo. But really, they're like yelling, you fat fuck, you fat lazy fuck. I was like, I don't feel fat or lazy right now because I'm getting my ass kicked. But so this goes on for months. And then like 6 weeks into this, I embrace it, you just got to roll with the punches right at that point. And so this is all happening, and they bring around like, craft services in Western Africa. I have to tell you, leaves a little bit to be desired if you're like working in New York and they have a truck and you can go over there and order specifically like, this is how I want my coffee, and they'll do,
Do you have oat milk?
exactly. I'm allergic to
stevia?
soy. It makes me a little farty. Can you, almond milk, please? Um, So they're bringing these around, and I'm like, so it's like they're Doritos, basically, right? And there's a brand of plantain chips that's called Obolo, and it's like my nickname. And if you made a cartoon picture of me, it's like the fat dude with a backwards hat, which is usually how I wear my hat. And he's got like big fat rosy cheeks like me, and like no shit, I'd be showing up to these villages where they maybe never even seen a white person before, and they're like, the living version of Doritos is here. Oh, Lobo. As I see this, I'm like, I can't even believe this is real. I was like, am I in the Truman Show? Maybe I'm still am. Is this part of the Truman Show? Telling the story, I was like half delirious with the malaria medicine I was on, and I was like, am I in Lost? Am I dead? Am I in purgatory right now? This is like, well, I can't even believe this is actually happening. So that was, just another day in the life of making movies, right? Oh man.
So what happened? Did you guys get all the gear in Africa? Or did you end up just having it all shipped in? Like what?
Well,
Since you couldn't find ladders, I mean that's kind of like step one.
Modify those trucks, but you couldn't drive them down those roads.
it's so funny. So like we'd have safety meetings like this. It would be like, okay, if you get bit by a snake, try and kill it so we can identify it to see if it's poisonous.
God.
I'll be like, do we really need dolly track in this jungle over here? Can we just go handheld, please? That was a real safety meeting we had. I was like, oh my God. I was like, nah, it's cool. Like, I got dysentery for this. It's great. But so a lot of the gear was so there's a huge film industry in Africa. So we were right next door to Nigeria. Some of it came from there. Some of it got shipped over. But a lot of the guys from South Africa, they traveled with their own gear. So the cameras, we had Panavision cameras on it. So there was an issue with one of them, and I think all the cameras came from South Africa. So there's like the problem is like getting stuff through customs. You're used to like the speed of bureaucracy here, which is like there's some red tape you have to go through, but I mean it's nothing compared to like the developing world, what you have to deal with, and like the corruption and the money. It's like strangely every shipment always had to have somebody go with a handler to the airport to whatever dealings are going to happen. And their local currency was cedis. It was always the cedis were the answer, right? So like whatever money had to exchange to whatever official wherever that was in the right spot, that's where your gear would get released. But I just happened to randomly, just ironically, working last week with this story came up with this, and he goes, yeah, I remember we sent over some like rags and stuff, so like big 20 buys or whatever, and he goes, yeah, I just remember opening a bag, and he happened to be working for the crew, like the key grip brought some of his gear over there, and it came back to the U.S., and he was like, yeah, I remember opening a bag and the smell that came out of it. He goes, I just closed it up and said, I don't think you should open this. like it was like the lost Ark of the Covenant or something. So there was some definitely some rags and some equipment that didn't make the journey back from that job.
I can imagine. I mean, if you guys are working in the jungle, like
Yeah.
nonstop? Were you doing like night shoots in the jungle? Or?
We did a lot of day for night stuff actually. So we went during the rain season, and it, so it was like it's like a child soldier movie, right? So a lot of like the special effects and stuff, they got away with a lot more, I think, than like you would be able to do with like needing the permits and stuff to do it here in America or whatever. But they bombed out a lot of stuff and blew up stuff and cars, flamed out cars and stuff like that. It was pretty awesome. But it was still, as the logistics were hard, but the level of professionalism around like the crew and everything is like top notch people, right? So like the top notch special effects and props, and everybody was just like on top of their game. Like the art department, it was just amazing. Like they made these villages and stuff that were like gonna get blown up and stuff. It was just really amazing, the level of craftsmanship that was across the board on that one. So as far as like that goes, there's a ton of like funny stories and circumstances that happened on the job that you focus on, but the actual work and stuff, it's like it was a really intense experience. But everybody was like on the top of their game and really put together a great movie. And that movie is Beasts of No Nation, So it was one of the most challenging jobs that I've ever been on. But also, it's like definitely one of those things where anybody that worked on it has to be proud of it, because the end result was we made a pretty good movie. And despite all of the setbacks and once in a lifetime kind of experiences that I'm sure my stories aren't unique. The Obo Lobo thing was kind of crazy. Cause like
I think we have to find that bag of Doritos. With the Obo Lobo.
Photo of that bag.
I can take a picture of it. I still have the bag at my apartment, so I definitely that was a unique thing, because even though like one of the armorers, the South African, he's like you have a following. He's like, these people, they wait for you and they cheer you. He's like, I've never seen anything like it. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, no, they follow you. He goes, with the training we've given them, and he goes, the way they follow you, he goes, you could probably take over this country. I was like, yeah. And he goes, I'm serious. I was like,
And with the armorer by your side, you definitely could.
Yeah, give me all your bullets. And
I've currency out there.
The currency is Doritos.
I felt just like, like when Samwise gets the ring and like in the Lord of the Rings, he's just this big, dumb, simple idiot. He's like, I don't know what to do with this power. You know what? Let's take over the world. I've always wanted to be an African warlord, deep in my heart.
Well, that's probably one of those movies where you're talking about these experiences that are burned in and how you have those friends for life, like that.
Yeah,
That's definitely a movie.
100%.
You said it was pivotal. In what other ways was it pivotal for you? Like, did it change the way you approach movies after that, and like how you do stuff on set now?
Yeah, I said I'm only working in New York City from here on out. I will tell you though, honestly, I've never complained about, people complain about like, oh, it's so hot in here, it's so cold. And I was like, I don't know. A lot of the things that all jokes aside, like you take for granted in the Western world, right? Whether it be like Western medicine, like I got hookworm and I was, food poisoning and all that. And it's like just the things that you take for granted at a base level here. I don't think I've ever complained once about the free food that catering that people give you or productions give you, like the craft services. People just, first world problems, really. I never complain about the heat. And it's like, making film is not an office job. You're going to have hard days. You're going to have days that are harder than others. And, you take the good with the bad when you get into this business. And, as far as pivotal goes, it was definitely a highlight of my career, but also it kind of steeled my resolve. I was still uncertain exactly what it was that I wanted to do, and I just long term I kind of decided there that I would I wanted to be a grip from there, and that's kind of how things opened up. It's like you get into this business, you're not sure where it's going to take you. You can do a lot of different things, and it's a creative industry, so uh, um, there's not a blueprint of how to do it because everybody gets into this business uniquely, and that movie kind of steeled my resolve. Anything else that I've ever done since it has not been as hard as that, and I don't know if that's because I'm more seasoned or obviously most conditions that you have aren't going to be like doing that in the developing world. The things that you have to deal with from that standpoint or the work conditions. But, it's also one of those things where once you have, I mean, whatever it is, everybody's going to have like the hardest job that you ever did, right? So once you've done that, it gives you, if you get into a similar situation where you are like in over your head or like it's physically demanding to a point where you don't think you're going to get through it, you can kind of think back, well, I did that movie in Africa, right? So it's kind of, I don't know. I can't think of a succinct way to say it, but it definitely gives you a sense of accomplishment or a sense that you can get through almost anything, right? Confidence, I guess, that nothing's going to be as hard as that. So, you just keep plugging away and you can get through damn near anything.
It's like you graduated like real life college, like college in the real world as a grip in a lot of ways. It was like you put in your time.
Yep, that's a good way to put it. And it also, when you start, it's like a lot of things. Every film set, every job that's going, every job has X amount of people that do it. So there is a lot of competition, right? It's a really competitive industry in which we are. There's one director of photography on every job. Every director of photography is in competition with every other director of photography, right? So some part of you, there is camaraderie in that as well, but it's a very, very competitive field. So once you've done something like that, you kind of have in the back of your mind where it's like, even if we're the same, like you haven't done that. So I'm like, I know that I can dig deeper than this person next to me if I have to, right? Even if it's, in a cooperative way, right? Like it's like that confidence that I can get through this, whatever the shoot demands are. And that's just me speaking about my experience. Everybody's going to have some unique experience in the film business that's similar in some way where it's like, I can't believe we did this to get this shot, right? And it's like once you've done something like that, you're like, well, then you can look back on it and you work with these guys again. And you're like, well, you remember that when we were, Takarati, you remember when we were doing this over here. And it's like, yeah, well, we can do this, right? So it's like, that's kind of the best thing about the film business is that it's not a 9 to 5, you're not working 8-hour days. You're not working 40 hours a week. It's 60 to 100 and it's hard. And, there's a lot of sacrifices that you make, but when you work on these tough jobs, it kind of shows you what you're made of and how much you want to do it. And it's like, if you're passionate about film and TV and, this kind of thing that we do, it's like, those are the moments where you're like, you can look back and be proud of that you were a part of something like that, even if it's a small scale.
So is your passion for film just gripping, or is your passion deeper than that?
Yeah, I guess, I love what I do. I love being a grip, But you know, you get into the business to make movies, not money. That's why you know, there are people that just do it and it's a job. But you
Better jobs though.
that's what I mean. Like, you got to suffer so much to do this for a living, so you better love it, right? And you know, I definitely got into this business because I love movies, and I wanted to work in some capacity doing it. And you know, I remember, like, I came up in the '90s. You know, I'm in my early '40s, so it was like Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino. And I was like, Quentin Tarantino, Roger Avery, they just worked at a movie store in LA. So that was my film school. I started working at a Hollywood Video, which was like a Blockbuster knockoff, right? Yeah. But it was free movie rentals. And I literally, in 3.5 years, watched 550 movies. Wow. And I remember that. I was like proud of that. And like, people would be making fun of me because I'm like watching these, like, you know, art house movies, or like people would come in and ask for recommendations, expecting me to say like the next Adam Sandler movie. I'm like, I don't know, Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries changed my life last week. You should watch that. You know, you should watch that at your 8-year-old's sleepover, your pizza party in Iowa. You know, so I was always just like somebody different. My friends always used to make fun of me for the stuff I'd watch, but you know, I also love Adam Sandler too. Let's not let's not mince words. Yeah. But you know, I really did like take that to heart, where it was like, you know, the '90s indie scene, where I'm like, anybody can make a movie. And you know, there's kind of like a resurgence of that. We're kind of like in a new era where you absolutely could make your own movie, right? If you wanted to, with such a low budget, you can achieve things like, I always say this, I'm like, I paid $50,000 to learn how to edit on iTunes or iMovie, which like kids get that in like elementary school now. Like, you have more editing capabilities on your iPhone than what, you know, I learned how to edit on an Avid, and there's another couple programs that I learned, you know, that was like industry standard at the time. But it's like literally like you can do more in iMovie than I pay student loans to learn, right? So it is kind of like the new resurgence of that, where there's like a new generation that I hope, I don't know, takes that into account. You know, there's a lot of things that you can achieve at a much lower budget, and if you know what you're trying to achieve, you can do it.
Did you do any kind of weird things where maybe you didn't have the right kind of gear to get
Phrase
the
it
shot?
that way.
Maybe we just
weird
call it,
things.
Maybe did you have like a shitty rig?
This is like Johnny Carson reading off his his blue card. So have you taken any vacations recently?
Yeah.
Is it weird to just name drop our own thing? Is that's the okay.
Well, you know what the funny thing is like, you think that the shitty rigs happen at the beginning, right? But they never really stop, because you find yourself in situations where you got to figure out a way to solve a problem, right? And that's like kind of the essence of shitty rigs. So like, big budget, big enough budget, right? A lot of times productions are going to shoot where they get these tax breaks. So it may or may not be exactly film friendly, like a place like, you know, Atlanta or New York or LA, where they have an established film business, right? So you can't always get what you need. And sometimes it's you know, on the fly, you got to figure these things out. So on a huge scale, this is what happens, right? So we're shooting at an old factory. It was like a technology factory, so it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like a car manufacturer or anything, but they were getting a huge tax break to shoot in Connecticut, and we're shooting at this factory. And so we're basically trying to control the light, which meant that we had to build like 150-foot long, 45-foot tall blackout tent, right? But this is like during late spring, early summer, and nobody accounted for the fact that we were going to shoot for 3.5 weeks, and it's gonna rain every single day. And so it's like, this is a great rig if it was like in a stage without any elements of nature that are gonna play into it. And I'm not kidding. So we got to figure out a way to keep, because the amount of rain that's coming down is going to tear this entire tent apart and mean that they can't shoot what they can't shoot. It's supposed to be a hospital inside there, and it has to be like, it's like shot really dark at a really high ISO. So any natural light coming in, it was just going to destroy everything. So we literally went to a pool store and got the like pool floaties, you know, like those big long pool floaties. And it was like, I don't know, akin to being on a crab boat in Alaska, because it was like raining cats and dogs for hours. And I look over at this guy he's 40 years in the business, and he's like sitting on the top of this rig like Lieutenant Dan in that scene in Forrest Gump where he's like, "Fuck you, God." And it was like us for like 3 weeks of our lives, but we were like throwing this pool floaty out with like towels on it and pulling the water again. Like, it's like 35 feet worth of water, and there's like individual like sections of this 150-foot tent that we have to pull the water from because it was going to rip through. And we had, it was just like, there's like 5 dudes. That's another one of these where I'm like, hey, do you remember? He was calling it the Sham Wow, because it was like, we were like doing like infomercials just to keep our morale up. That was like, as the rigging crew, that was like, all right, we're going to get there at 7 a.m. We're going to bring this tent out. And it was like on all these pulleys and stuff. So it would come in and out at the beginning and end of the day. And then it was like, we would like, all right, cool, the tent's up. And then like God was like, for your sins. And the clouds would roll in every fucking day and just be like, hey, fuck you. Fuck your life. Should have gone to law school. Yeah. Should have become a CPA or something. You want to make movies for a living, huh? Do you? And it was like the hardest job that I've ever done on the continental U.S. And it was like 3 weeks like that. Oh, God. It was just every day. I was like, and I hate Connecticut to this day. When I drive to Stamford, Connecticut, I hate Connecticut for all of those days. They can keep their New Haven pizza as delicious as it is, because for the rain for 3 weeks, it was like sham wowing it. But you know what? You got to figure it out, right? So our shitty rig was a rope and some towels and a pool floaty. And that's what kept that movie made. And nobody's gonna say about it it's not gonna show up as a special thanks to these 4 grips that every day hated their life. It's not gonna be like a special thanks. It's not gonna be a title card. But you know what? That movie got made because we figured out a way to keep that tent from ripping. And it was like 4 dudes hating their life on a roof for 3 weeks. Got that damn movie made. I'm going to leave this one unnamed.
Tell me you have a picture of this sham wow.
No, I could draw it, though.
We would love a diagram.
I have a mental image of it right now.
Yeah.
I was also
maybe we bring someone else in and we'll recreate that.
It was also like
sketch artist and like draws.
Yeah, it's like a police sketch artist.
Reverse recreate.
He just talks about how terrible it was.
It was also like somehow like 90 degrees every day too, and through
Raining
this like
and
rain,
90? Oh,
it was
God.
like just humidity, and so I was like wearing these like short shorts and like boots, and this like old timer was like, Started calling me Mary Tyler Moore. It wasn't even like Julia Roberts from Pretty Woman. It was a reference from like a 70s TV show because I was wearing these high waiter boots. I was like, 'cause I'll tell you this, man, gripping and film, like your fashion sense, it's all function. I don't give a shit what I look like. I'm staying dry. I'm done. Like I'm done replacing my socks. I bought these big giant like fisherman's boots that went up to my knee like a lady, and that was that. I sacrificed my manhood for my dryness. You do what you got to do to get the shot, right?
Exactly.
That's a shitty rigs tenet.
That's 100% what it's all about. And like that's really the thing about it too, is like it's not necessarily a budget thing. Yes, it does happen more on these like lower budget things, but there's just elements that you can't control, and like and when you're in those situations, like what do you do? Do you let the tent rip and then production has to figure it out and then you go down, or do you go get a pool floaty and a towel?
Well, that's it too. Because honestly, it's like your job as a technician is to figure that shit out, and whoever hired you, even if it's their rig that you didn't have anything to do with the design, the fact that he hired you, he trusts you to make him look good to production. So if that does happen, that's a terrible thing for him, for your boss. And, it's like you got to protect the quarterback,
Yeah.
So no matter what it is.
Yeah, because I mean, in the end, like what you're saying earlier, it's like it's your network that you're getting your jobs through your network. So like,
Yep.
you don't want to burn a bridge here because that bridge might burn a couple more things that you're not aware of,
Exactly.
So
And you don't know who knows who.
exactly, it's
just
it's a small industry.
Small.
Remember that.
Always.
Even though it seems big, it's very small.
It's an interweaving web of you can't believe who knows who and what things can hurt you. So never burn bridges.
Mm-hmm. Unless you gotta then really
Unless you have to,
torch
then
them.
just
Or do, and then
Just pour gasoline on it and let it go.
switch departments, start over.
Yeah, exactly. There's always our department. Or locations, clearly.
Can you try props? You want to?
yeah. Here's another one. What's the heaviest thing that a grip has to carry? The art department. Just kidding, my props friends. It's
Props to you.
not my
Camera
joke.
department. It's really the camera department. Let's face it.
How did you guys meet? How did
Is it an app called Grindr? Yeah. Don't tell Mike's girlfriend, but
Oh man, those days.
Wait, did you guys meet at Ombres?
Praise.
It's actually it's where we met.
yeah.
I thought it was bar 69.
No, that's where we meet.
They have a
That's
really-
not where we met.
We have a great happy hour, dude.
I love glitter. That's all.
I believe it was with another fellow shitty rigger who's been on this show, Adam Lukens.
Oh yeah.
Adam,
The big brother that I never wanted.
you were working with Adam, and
Yep.
I worked with Adam quite a bit, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's BK.
I do remember that. That's how I met. I met you through Adam, because I remember you started throwing me work, and Adam was like my lifeline. So he like kind of could treat me however he wanted to, and like he was like I was kind of like just grateful for whatever he could, whatever scraps he would throw me out, and just be like ready for whatever, And then he asked me if I was available, and I said no for the first time. He goes, "What?" And I was like, I was working for Mike. Mike had offered me a job. He goes, "Oh, what? So like you work for him now too?" The branch had grown. The network had grown to 2. I remember.
And he was ready to just cut the branch.
Did you get a phone call? I was like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
It's like, I'm going to rub your face over a cheese grater the next time when you work for me, pal. I remember one job. Oh man, I haven't thought of this in a long time. I remember one job. This is early on, like let's like transitioning from being a PA, right? So like the guy that would just like I showed up on time, picking up vans, happy trucks, whatever. And then I started getting grip and electric work, which is what I wanted to do, right? So I was again willing to do whatever it took. And this was shortly after the Freedom Tower had opened, right? So it was a big deal. And this shoot, Mike brought me out on this shoot because it was for like the architect. It was like
Silverstein brother property.
yeah. So it was like super time sensitive, right? Like we had to get this lit, and we were gonna have like 25 minutes with this guy who's like big deal, like one of the biggest architects living in the world. And so it was just one of those shoots though where it was like didn't have the production support that you would on a bigger job. And so there's still a lot of construction down there too, I should add, just to set the scene here a little bit. And this truck that we got is like a rental, and it has a lift gate that does one of these, does like a 45 at the end without warning you, right? So I'm looking around, the truck driver, the PAs, they're nowhere to be found. And I'm on the radio, and they're like, we need this. Like, it's a big, giant HMI, like with a bunch of cabling and header. It's like probably like a 10K, to fight the sunlight that you're going to have at the top floor up there. And so 10 or 12K, enormous, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it down myself. So I'm bringing this gate down, and it does one of these, and I'm like, oh my God, this is something you should never do, by the way. Let the gear go. You're worth more than the gear, even if you don't know your own self-worth. But at that time, I was like, I can't let this light go down or my career is over. So I grabbed the yoke, right? And it's rolling down. It's coming down, and it's going over, right? So it hits the ground and goes over. Somehow I do a somersault with it, caressing this giant HMI that's like the size of me, right? And it rolls over with me. And the cabling and everything flips over. And I do like 2 more somersaults with it, right? And I'm like, oh my, I'm never going to work in this business again. I've fucking destroyed every chance I have to make this a living. And so I get up, I flip the hamper over, and all this cabling's in there. And I'm throwing the cables in, I throw the ballast in. It's heavy as shit, right? I get the light, like some world's strongest men, and get it. And then all of a sudden, like an 80s movie, I hear this slow clapping, right? And I look around, and it's like the union iron workers are on their coffee break, and they're all like ordering breakfast, and they're smoking cigarettes, and this dude's like sarcastically clapping. And it's like, I look around, and it's like an 80s movie. I'm not kidding. There's like, this is not an exaggeration. It's like a block of dudes in line to get their food, because it's like a huge construction project, right? So like every union worker, like electricians and iron workers, HVAC dudes, everybody's like sarcastically cheering me on. And it was like, if you called central casting for this dude that came up to me, you couldn't cast this dude. It's like, he'd be like, oh, he's a little too much. He comes up to me, goes, hey, I gotta ask you something, bro. And I was like, what's that? I was like throwing stuff in this hamper. He goes, do you know karate or something? He goes, the way you fucking somersaulted like that and jumped up. He's like, you gotta know karate. I got a bet with my buddy over here. You know karate, right? And I was like, nope, just grew up watching Chris Farley, and I'm a useless son of a bitch. It's going to lose my career already, and it's not even started. And I said that. I go, no, man, I just grew up watching Chris Farley. And he goes, and I had a big Pelican case, too, down there that I had to bring up. And he goes, so what, that's your lunchbox? Ha! And he goes, I'm just kidding you, man. He goes, I wish I could get my guys to work like that. So it was busted my balls when he was like, I respect that. You fucked up big time, but you know what? You're fixing it. You fucked up, but look at you. You're fixing it. You're all right. You're going to be okay. And it was like God sent that little angel down to say, like, you know what? You're made to live in New York, kid. You don't have to go back to the dirt road.
I remember you coming up and not telling me
I didn't
one
say
thing
shit.
of what had happened.
It was
I could just
years.
tell something was going on because BK was fucking bright red and extra sweaty. And I was like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah."
No, all these tails. I don't know why all these extra tails and shit are out. And this cable's coiled right. Man, this fucking rental house. I don't know. I'd go with probably another rental house. Anyways, hey, where's the bathroom? I have to take a shower.
Oh my god.
So that's real. That's sounds like I'm making that up. That is 100% exactly how it
That was when
happened.
they were finishing the Oculus.
Yeah.
The Oculus is right next
Yep.
to it, and they were finishing all that shit.
Oh my God, the level of security there too, man. It was crazy. And I think one of the security guards like saw me because she like let me right in. She'd been giving me shit. I was like, oh, this dude's having a bad day. And I'm not kidding, man. I was like watching that HMI. I was like, please God, I'm never gonna ask for another favor. Let that thing fucking turn on.
I'll go back to church.
And then I don't even think the dude even showed up.
Yeah,
so it was all we didn't even
like
use
lit
it.
the scene, and
It was
then he
all
walked
for
outside.
nothing. That's like that's 100%. That's grip and electric right there for you. Great practice. If I can sacrifice my life, my pride, I'm never gonna be an iron worker or IEW. HVAC won't have me because they have footage of me like that. And then we don't even use the fucking thing, right? Hey, it was good effort, though, you know. Way to go, Obalobo. It means fat, lazy guy, you know. You're not bad for a fat, lazy idiot.
You say fat kung fu guy.
You know Kung Fu?
You know karate.
You know karate? I asked my guys. I got a bet. I'll never forget that, dude.
Bryan Karate, that's what they call
Like hard hat. Just like,
Oh, that was a great day. Not for you.
for everyone else.
anyway, we're laughing about it now,
Yeah.
right? Like Truman Show. Again, I'm on the Truman Show. That's like if there's a camera following me around, man, there's definitely be followers.
That's the light that fell from the sky.
You caught it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, I mean,
On that note,
on that note,
what do we follow that with?
I mean, it seems like you've done some stuff, BK. You got some stories. So, like, what's some advice for someone who wants to get into this?
Don't be like me. Run. Run for your life. Go back to law school. Be a producer. No, you know what? Film industry is great. You know, if you, whatever capacity that you work towards to do it, if you wanted to be a grip, right? The great thing about being a grip, what I love about being a grip, all jokes aside, is you are intimately involved with almost every other department. You're in a support role, right? So you're also a problem solver. A lot of times people have ideas and they don't know how to achieve it, and you are the one that comes up with the idea of how you're going to achieve what somebody has a creative idea to do. And so you're the technical know-how that gets something done. And it's like there's been very few grips that have been thanked by name in an Academy Award speech, but like when a director of photography talks about lighting, it's the grips and electricians really is who that award is for, right? So, because a lot of times anybody can have an idea, but how are you going to achieve it? And the grips truly are the ones that figure out how to do it, you know, whether it be camera movements, camera rigs, and, you know, when there's like stunt cars and all this, all the cool shit you get to do as a grip, right? You know, you're intimately involved with whenever the camera is moving. whether it be lighting. A lot of, you would never know some of the cool stuff that we do to achieve shots, even from like a structural and construction standpoint. So if you did want to do it, I would highly recommend just embracing that support role, right? And if you're with people that are making film, or if you have somebody that has an idea or whatever, you can make a great career with being the support staff that makes somebody's creative vision happen, right? So it's like, the other thing is like, even if you're going to be a creative person, you can put your creativity to use in a technical standpoint, or from a technical point of view. And, just being involved in filmmaking in general, you can find a lot of creative ways for your own projects helping somebody else, right? And you can get better, even if it's something that you want to do it. So if you embrace being a grip, it will make you a better filmmaker for your own stuff as well. So that's my advice, is to not be above the work, right? So it's like the real blue collar aspect of it. It's like, the industrial side of show business, but don't be above carrying a sheet of plywood, because ultimately every part of film production, whether it be just laying down plywood and sinking screws, you're still a part of making something, right? So there's a lot to be said for being like the in the support role. Honestly, that's why I love being a grip, is you take pride in your work, and ultimately a lot of things you end up being the person that solves the dilemma of how you achieve a shot.
Yeah, you don't usually have to take Zoom meetings either about like how to do stuff.
That's true. We work in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
It's better to let them think that we're knuckle dragging idiots,
It's interesting that you guys usually get the shitty end of the stick, but like you're as someone who's been there, you're still very humble.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be, right? So, you're hidden in plain sight a lot of times. And, when you get to be a boss, right, you're speaking on another level, right? When you're speaking to above the line, you have to understand what what you're trying to achieve and how to speak to these people. Like, the best grips are, jacks of all trades, masters of none, right? So you kind of have to be a great key grip. You have to know how to build a set. You have to know how to square things up. You have to know how to rig. You have to know how to push a dolly. You have to know all of these things. So one of the people that I have the utmost respect for in the credits, especially like a technically challenging movie, when you're like floored by a movie that's like not green screen, like practical effects, like how did they achieve these shots? That's when you look and see like, who was the key grip on that? And then if you look up that person's IMDb, and you'll see what movies they worked on, it's usually pretty incredible, because key grips film credits are going to be 2, 3, 4 times as long as a director of photography, really, because they're going to be intimately involved with a lot of productions for 2, 3. They're going to have multiple clients that they work for, right? So it takes a lot longer for a DP to finish a project than it does a key grip, because they're going to be involved from shooting to end, and then the DP is going to be before and pre-production and after post-production. And so, for like the big key grips out there, it's like, when you talk about like wanting to know about a wealth of knowledge or how to make a movie, those dudes know how, right? So anyways.
Also, the best Tropic Thunder line is when they're like, "Who's Who's the key grip?
Punch that guy in the
Punch that
face.
guy in the
and he
face.
apologizes before he does it. I was thinking, that's the grips that I know. It's like, I gotta do this. It's for your own good. But I was told that I have to punch you in the face. I'm gonna do it. He's like, sorry, and he does it. There's no doubt. If you're a grip, you go punch that guy in the face. All right. Sorry. Boss told me to punch you. You're getting punched.
Yeah, he's not getting fired. Well, on that note, I think we can probably wrap this up.
Yeah, I finished my beer. So
Bert's out of beer. Bert just pounded an entire.
Drink a whole mag.
It's
Ag-
2 liter.
it's a liter and a half of beer.
2 liter of.
I have to pee
Mountain
so
Dew.
bad.
We have to fill that bottle back up.
Fill it back up and drink it again. So thank you guys for watching or listening to Rap Drinks, and thank you BK for being here and sharing some
Hey, thanks for
awesome
having me.
stories.
Yeah, it was fun.
And you guys can subscribe to our Patreon to hear more of these stories, or you can watch these on YouTube. You can like, comment, and share. You can thumbs up. You can do some other things.
Get on the Discord.
And get on the Discord
goddamn
and
Discord.
be able to talk to us and hear more. And maybe you can suggest people that we should have on Rap Drinks. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Did I do a good one?